Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started as an artist and what led to you doing Chalk Talks?
Well, as an artist in general, I was 14 years old. I had finished the one-room school in 8th grade, went home to help Dad on the farm.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I was destined to be an artist, but I was working for my sister one summer, and she had just lost a baby, and kind of to process her grief, she started painting, and I would sit and watch her paint, and I can remember having this longing to hold a paintbrush.
Yes.
And I think she noticed, and she sent me home and didn't pay me in money for helping her with her children and her garden and her house, but she paid me in paints and brushes. Right. And then I went home and I tried it out. I picked, stones from the field and slate from the barn and started painting pictures.
So you found it on your own?
Yeah.
I started training under you when I was 10. Yes. I started taking lessons from you formally. What do you remember about me starting under you as an artist?
I'll never forget it. Yeah. I'll never forget it. And it's one of those things that are hard to explain when things happen on the inside of you. But when you appeared at the door, I can still see you. I can close my eyes and see you standing there as a 10-year-old with what looked like a tackle box full of chalk. And
I think it was.
And you were so eager to learn. You were so eager to learn. And I remember something just welled up inside of me. And I had just finished learning about Phil Saint, who was a mighty chalk art evangelist back in the 1940s and 50s. And I just thought, and my mind was like, this could be the next Phil Saint, you know?
Oh my goodness,
But anyway, I just remember I'll never forget that.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Okay, that's awesome. So, what stood out to you about me as a student? Those first few lessons.
Yeah.
I think it was around Easter when I started. I think we did an Easter drawing.
Yeah. Well, I just remember how thoroughly interested you were, and what struck out to me is that for a 10-year-old that you had such an interest for things of the kingdom. Yes. And expressing, you were very interested in illustrating Bible stories, and that just kind of stood out in my mind, and I was rather impressed with that, I remember. But you were very easy to teach because your heart was so into it.
Yeah, and since then, I've done them in Costa Rica, Haiti, Bible schools in Virginia, Massachusetts. So such a neat way to share the gospel, as you know, and you've done yourself. So were there any moments where you saw potential in me, kind of like you mentioned?
Yeah, always. I never doubted that you would not stay with it, because I've had a good many people come through here wanting to learn, and they would fizzle out and just, and it went by the wayside, but with you it never did.
Okay, awesome. So how do you think faith and creativity have shaped both of our artistic journeys over the years, from you starting years ago and then even...
Yeah, I think the benefit of faith being in your art is that there's just something beyond yourself. Right. Because I can remember times of being on the stage here with you. Remember when we were designing the picture of Elijah and the prophets of Baal and the fire from heaven?
I vaguely remember that. Vaguely, yes.
But I'm always prayerful about my classes and my illustrations, and I always look to God for help. And I'm very aware of those inspirations coming to me. So honestly, I wouldn't know how to do it without faith. I mean, I imagine there, to a certain degree, I can still be creative, but there's just a depth, there's just something there that goes beyond us, when faith is involved.
And I've had times, even when I'm doing a live performance, where you just you're just don't know quite what to draw next, and then it's it kind of comes right in there, and you're I wasn't expecting that.
Happy surprises.
So what are some lessons you taught me as a chalk artist that you think are essential for any artist, whether it's any medium,
any artist, any medium, always practice. I mean, there's just no way around it. Yes, there's a manward side and a Godward side, and God's there to help us, but we have to do our part, and so that is definitely what I remember the most, is that practice, and just being diligent to educate yourself as much as you can.
It's amazing. You can't see it in the moment, but the compounding effect of practicing over the years really adds up when you look at the final product.
For sure.
How do you see my confidence and skills develop over the years? Or even other students, or I think your daughter does chalk talks as well?
Yeah, it surprises me that with chalk talk art, I think it takes longer.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen students progress in their skills with watercolors and oils, but there's something unique about chalk art that I think it's the fact that you have to create so quickly on the spot and in front of people, and that just takes a special sort of skill that I feel like takes years to develop. I'm in my 36th year and I'm still keenly aware of those areas that just still need work and practice, and I see myself progress year by year by year. And sometimes it feels painfully slow, and at other times we're like, wow, look what we've done, you know, and I'm thankful for that. But it just takes time.
Right. Yeah. So you talked about kind of that time, like development over the years, and how you kind of develop your own style in essence, right? So in what ways do you think you've stayed true to your like own style of art, like over the years?
I've watched other artists do chalk talks, very precise and very even lines, and
I have seen that too.
Yeah, yes. And I'm just all over the place, and I think that's part of my personality. Yes. And I've learned that I can create better if I do it quickly. Right. It's just, my mother always said that I was quick in the fingers. And I'm that way with art. I'm that way with work. I make the pieces fly when I wash dishes.
Make it happen.
The soap suds are on the sink and the windowsills, and that's kind of how I do
and
art.
I think I've kind of taken that from you because it's like, get it up there, get it done. Especially when you're a live performance artist, people want to see it come together pretty quickly. Yeah,
for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about chalk talks changing over the years. So I think that kind of style of more whimsical or impressionistic artwork in existing chalk artists is kind of overtaking kind of the more rigid style. Would you say that? Or?
I think it is, and why? I'm not exactly sure, other than in the olden days, they spent most of their time doing these very elaborate, hidden, invisible scenes, right?
Yes.
And then in front of the people, they would only do a small portion, like a third or a fourth of the picture around the bottom, the sides. There might have been a little mountain and a stream, and they turn the black light on, and voila, there's this huge hidden scene. Yeah. Now we have these buildings, you have the security lighting, we can't get them dark like we need to, so we've kind of scratched that. Yeah. And so in order to get in 25 minutes or 30 minutes or less to get a big picture done, you got to move fast.
To spend so much time on a black light picture when in reality you're only going to turn the black light on for so much time. It's better to actually draw that sort of eye-catching part in front of the audience.
Yes.
I
mean, it's gorgeous, don't get me wrong. Yeah. And I have great respect for those chalk artists from the past. And that was really something that people really enjoyed, to watch that surprise happen. But now we're kind of making that happen quickly, right before their eyes.
Right. And I've learned that over the years. If you can draw what people like to see, like people, animals, those kind of figures, trees, flowers, buildings, they want to see that come before their eyes. And if you can draw that, that's always neat for the audience. So you performed for many different audiences. What makes a great performance? When you finish one, what makes you think, oh, that was a good chalk talk?
Well, naturally speaking, of course, if the steeple isn't crooked and everything's nice, and I'm happy with the intensity of the colors and so forth, and the interest of the people. I mean, I perform for so many different crowds, different types of people, and the interest level sometimes is a little different, but for the most part, they do eventually get drawn in. Yeah. So if their hearts are really with me, I can feel that. I can sense that.
You can feel it, yes.
And it helps me to create better.
Right.
So suddenly I'm forgetting what your question was.
Even if it's not a perfect ending piece, right? But as long as you felt that they were with you. Right.
Yeah. Oh, now I remember. Yeah. But I think for me, okay, that's naturally. Spiritually is, I think, my dependence on the Holy Spirit and just believing. It's a faith thing. Right. Believing that the Holy Spirit is working and using this tool to reach, as a pathway into people's hearts. So that's to me the most important factor.
Absolutely. Do you remember any performances that would have stood out to you, whether you did them or you saw someone else do them or I did them? Any particular chalk talks?
I guess to somebody else, this is somewhat negative, but when I was a teenager, someone took me to hear a preacher preach a sermon and do a chalk talk, and did it painfully slow and drug it out so long.
Yes.
And the picture just had 3 crosses and little Jerusalem in the
Wasn't
background.
even much there.
Wasn't much there. And to be honest, till the hour was over, I mean, he would talk and draw at the same time. Till the hour was over, I was sick of the picture.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, the heart only lasts as long as the sea.
Yeah.
I was no longer interested.
You were done.
And I remember thinking, if I ever do this, I'll never do it like this.
Right.
Which I think is one of the reasons maybe maybe I'm going too fast, but it's one of the reasons why, like, we're going to make this picture happen.
Like a good medium pace is enough to keep the audience engaged.
Keep it interesting.
Yeah.
For me, as far as audience go and Chalk Talk, my absolute favorite is the one-room Amish schools. The Amish people are very appreciative. They're not overly entertaining.
Which is one of your most popular ones.
Well, I personally enjoy it so much. But I've done it on cruise ships for Amish and Mennonite groups.
Yeah.
That was an unforgettable experience. But I've also done it for like Fort Indian Town Gap Army bases.
People totally that have an emotional feel to that.
And you know, they were like all kind of loose because they were drinking, and here comes me, the entertainment at Christmas time, and the cat calls on the stage as I got on the stage. But as soon as I started in with my stories about the history of the carols, they became very reverent, and I could just feel something come over the place, and they became very reverent, and something just happened. The whole atmosphere shifted. So I have experienced that in many different ways, but that kind of stands out.
As a performance. What advice, thinking more about the future, would you give to me specifically, or as people continue to build their careers in art or even as music, in music, what would you say to someone?
I think first and foremost of all, it's just, man, stay on your knees, because God, you know, we can get good ideas, but if it's not a God idea, it doesn't carry the anointing.
It doesn't grow.
On the other hand, I have met some people who felt like it was all God and not them, and they never practiced, and they never got real good, and the programs were never really interesting. So, you know, God, like I said earlier, there's a Godward side and a manward side. So, you know, you just paint all that you can without fear of painting badly. To quote Monet, I think it was, but and then just pray like it all depends on God, and practice like it all depends on you. So there's a quantity aspect of just creating, which I learned
develop
that skill.
It's your own style. It kind of comes down to developing your own unique twist.
I think that will happen as you practice. And before you know it, I mean, I realize, I mean, I see some of you in my. I see some of me in your Chalk Talks, and I was, you know, mentored by Gary Means, and he very much had the similar style, although his was tighter. But I definitely, and even now as an artist with my fine arts, I find myself shifting as I get older to more impressionistic, because I just don't quite have the focus to stay with all the details. And I find that happening with my Chalk Talks as well.
But you can't let all the details go out the window. What are some things I should focus on, or do you think is good to focus on to take that creativity and storytelling to the next level?
That's good. That's a very good question. I realize that I feel like I took it to the next level in my generation. Because I still to this day haven't met anybody other than you, because you learned it from me, is that we record our story ahead of time. We add music, songs, sound effects. So I'm always trying to add more. You know, I hear the horse's hooves and the running of the water, and that makes it a multimedia presentation, makes it all more interesting. Now, I've heard in the olden days they would put something in the back of their easel and poke a hole in the paper and have a little smoke machine, and the smoke would come out of the chimney. Oh my goodness. Which I'm like, wow. That's a lot of work. So there's more that we could do.
No, definitely.
You know, and I'm sure there's things that we haven't even discovered yet that we could add thereon too. You know, to make it just a fabulous presentation,
production.
So I'm doing something I never did before. Actually, I'm doing a Chalk Talk at the Billy Graham Training Center next week.
Tell me about that.
And I'm taking a chalk artist friend with me. And so during one of the worship segments, we are both going to be at the easel. And so, you know, she's kind of going one side, I'm on the other. We switch.
It'll be like a duet with Chalk Talks. Yes. Oh my goodness.
And we practiced here the other day. It was fun.
Will you have that available for people to watch after the fact?
I can see to it, yes. Because I'll have a videographer there, and he can capture that.
Awesome. So there are some ways that we could take it to the next level. Yeah,
for sure. And I think I don't know if you've learned of the bed sheet. Some do it on big bed sheets, very large.
Yes.
I'm personally don't feel like I want to do that,
right.
but I did think of two people on the stage, side by side, easels side by side, and like if you and I work together. I mean, I've toyed with that idea already, but I'm not sure quite.
Right.
It would take some working together and figuring.
For sure. So what qualities do you think have helped yourself and students you've had come through grow as artists or myself?
Qualities.
I think that I should keep developing to grow.
I think it's a huge asset if you already have art skills and musical skills. Although I have art skills for the chalk talks, I've seen many chalk artists learn for the sake of sharing the gospel, and they didn't have a lick of art abilities.
Right.
But they learned the basics, so that's possible. But it truly is an asset if you're artistically inclined. Yeah,
I kind of have that intuitive sense, that kind of notion. Yeah. There's almost like a natural aspect to it, like in your nature.
I think it'll just flow.
Yeah, it'll just flow. Yeah. So looking back at my journey, is there any advice you'd give me that you haven't said before?
Oh, sir! Every time you came, I tried to just teach you everything I know.
You could, yeah.
But as I discover, I mean, I discover things all the time, so it probably would be valuable for us to get together and, just to even share.
Right.
You could probably share discoveries with me now because you discovered some things
on my own.
Because I with the farm and the cows and the children, I didn't have time to go to chalk art conferences for many years, and just recently I went back, and I was so blessed because just to rub shoulders with those other artists and partake of some of their inspiration was hugely, it just benefited me a lot, even after 36 years.
Collaborating with others.
Right. So I feel like you and I locally
little
do
things.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone who wants to learn more about your work, where can they find or attend any of your chalk talks?
Well, a lot of the chalk talks happen here at I call this my little theater, my Barnyard Art Studio. So during the tour season, there's buses coming here all the time, and they can join those groups, or they can bring their own group, or if they're individuals, they can join the groups. But otherwise, there is a schedule on the events calendar on the website. And there's also a video that'll give you a nice experience about what happens here in the Chalk Talks, and it's elvischalkart.com.
Great, wonderful. Yeah, so I started when I was 10, and 15 years later, here we are. And
I can't believe it.
Hundreds, probably thousands of people later have seen the Chalk Talks and experienced the Chalk Talks. So.
I'm always amazed. Never ceases to amaze me how God uses, and now they are making a film based on my story.
Yes, and your book.
Based on my autobiography, but it's going to definitely cover the art journey and the faith journey as well.
And you've already had one production done so far.
Yeah, that was different. That was based on a children's book, and so it was called Entertainment for Children. But this one is definitely something. Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah,
great.
Something
Thank
to
you
share
so
the
much.
gospel.
Thank you so much.
Thank
yes,
you.
Thank you.
Yes.